Hello and welcome to the show. This week's FailRace versus the community was B-Class Rolls-Royces versus Bentley. It is the British land yachts. God, that's a hard phrase to say. The first race was at Spa. First time I've used this track, I think, in versus the community. I figured since we've got some more straight line speed-based cars, well, certainly not handling cars, we'd use a bit of a bigger track for this one. The first time up Eau Rouge, there was a little bit of a bump. Cameras get a little bit confused, but most people made it up there relatively safely. Now, off the start line, somebody failed to launch, and there was a pretty big crash. So the field was sort of split in two as we come down. I can't remember the name of the straight. I had survived the opening lap. I was slow. I didn't have any damage up towards the fast chicane. See, you can fit two cars around here. You can go side by side if you give each other enough space, as these two proved. You can, and further back as well, actually, they fitted a few cars around. In the end, the pink Bentley was stuck on the outside, and it just couldn't keep the position, or couldn't hold on to that position from the one of the almighty wings. He could, though, fend off the Rolls-Royce into the next corner. As I said, I had a pretty poor start in avoiding an accident and was down the back. My Bentley was pretty good in a straight line. Through the corners, it did struggle a little bit. I got to the inside of a Rolls-Royce as many people ran wide through that corner on the opening lap. These cars caught out a lot of people. Even the experienced drivers were struggling with these. They don't have the brakes at all. They really struggle under braking, but it's the understeer. The understeer in these cars that is a real problem that takes some getting used to. And then the sudden oversteer as you try to put power down. They're difficult cars to drive. They're very, very difficult to drive. In general, the Rollses tended to be a bit better through the corners. You have more PI to play with. You can put more upgrades on the Rollses. Whereas the Bentleys start much higher, but the Bentleys tended to be quicker in a straight line. I wouldn't say there was any massive favouritism between the cars. It just all depended on how you built it, how well you tuned it, and so on. I was following a green Bentley. I was trying to get to the inside. He was a little bit slow. I got boxed in, and it was an impressive overtake from the white Rolls-Royce, sweeping around the outside of me at one of the fastest corners in the game. I then had a bit of a dive at the final corner. Outbraked myself a tiny bit, but not quite as much as the green Bentley that I had to take to the escape road, and everybody kept out of trouble, and I would eventually get the position anyway, as I had a better run onto the start-finish line. Further back, there was a couple of Rollses that were swapping places through turn one. The orange car there does a cutback and manages to get the position. There's actually an even number of cars in this one. There was 8 Rolls-Royces and 8 Bentleys, which was good to see. As we come up towards Eau Rouge, the car that we're on board with got brave, trying to go... I mean, that's ambitious. That's very ambitious, trying to go too wide up Eau Rouge. Couldn't quite do it. In the end, the back... I think may have locked the rear brakes. The back end just got away from him. And with cars of this weight, if things go wrong, they tend to go wrong quite spectacularly. Well done for keeping it out of the fence. And I applaud the effort. The thought was there. I don't think you would get 2 cars up Eau Rouge at racing speeds. These things are so hard to drive. One of the other cars that was making progress, having been caught up in the earlier collisions, was this purple and wooden Bentley. It's not very often you say that particular combination of colours. It was a pretty good race, actually, this opening one. It was a shame that there was a crash on the start line, if I'm honest. But the rest of it wasn't too bad, despite the difficulties in driving these cars. These are incredibly difficult cars to get around. They're not designed for racing, you know. When we do a versus the community, it's very unlikely we will ever see any of these cars used again, because in whatever class, in B class, in A class, they're never going to be as competitive as a sports vehicle, because they are just so large and so heavy. It's a very big dive into the final corner from the Rolls-Royce that we are riding on board with. Can't quite get the move done, though. The orange car holds it around the outside and then holds it through the next corner as well, but you saw how much better on the brakes this wooden Bentley was. So wooden Rolls-Royce, sorry, was. So as it came up towards the first corner, it was another big dive, and this time he can get the move done. The orange car tries to keep around the outside, but it can't quite do it, and then gets a little bit of wheel spin over the curbs. You've got to be careful. Not only do you have understeer through high-speed corners when you try to put the power down, you can get sudden oversteer. I mean, these are pretty damn powerful cars. Most of the Bentleys were putting out, well, I think they start off with like 620 or something horsepower. The Rolls Royces were probably putting out a similar amount in this class with their upgrades, maybe a little bit less. I found myself in quite a lot of action this race, actually. Trying to get past a Rolls Royce in front. I just didn't quite have the grip to do it, but I did have the straight line speed. I made a little bit of an error in judging my braking point, just tried a little bit too hard. In the end, I don't know if I actually touched the back of the Rolls Royce, but in coming back across the track, I slowed down the other one as well, so it was kind of all fair. I was the only real loser. It's such a tiny tap that we got away without any damage. The two Rollses in front were very close through this next corner. One of the nastiest corners, that one. Deceptively tricky to get around there. And then we have the speed of the Bentley. It was nice having just that little bit more straight line speed. I go to the outside for probably the scariest overtake I have ever done. It's not very often I give myself overtake of the evening, but this was pretty damn hard to beat. Around the outside of both corners, in the car that was hardest, well, worst through the corner, less grip from my Bentley than the Rolls Royce. I managed to get it done. Thank you very much to the Rolls Royce on the inside for actually giving me space. That could have ended very badly for both of us, but he gave us enough space, and I managed to get past the black and yellow Rolls. Just got a bit too much oversteer out of the final corner, and I think I worked my way up into 4th place at this time. Yeah, despite the horrendous start I'd had, we'd actually not done too badly. Unfortunately, despite my very spectacular overtake, it was a matter of time before the Rolls Royce would get back. I just didn't have enough grip through these high-speed corners. As we come down towards, this is a pretty nasty one for these cars. They do understeer quite a lot through here. I couldn't fend him off. No point trying to go around the outside. I know I'm not going to have the grip. Tried to cut back on the inside for the exit of the corner. I can't carry the corner speed that the Rolls Royces could, and I didn't really have the brakes. I had a go at it, but I just couldn't stop my car. Couldn't stop it quick enough, so I was going to have to settle for losing that place. And the front, and it would be a pink Rolls Royce. There we go. I can say that. God damn it. That would take the victory by an absolute mile. I think he was about 3 or 4 seconds a lap quicker than everybody else. It was, yeah, a very, very easy victory for this particular car. It was to be a Bentley that would come in second and a Bentley in third. I think on the final lap I would bin it in the wall after clipping a bit too much curb. Ended up in about 7th or something. It was a good race though. It actually was pretty damn good fun. There was, okay, at the front it wasn't particularly close, but elsewhere there was plenty of close racing despite these vehicles that are not really suited for I mean, okay, so the Bentleys, yes, the Bentleys race in GT3, but these particular ones wouldn't have been. You couldn't even have race tyres on the Bentley, they didn't have enough PI. Our next race, we went to Yas Marina, one of the shortened versions of this track. I think it's North Alternate. I can't remember the names of them. There's so many different alternate versions of this, but it's a shortened version of Yas Marina. These first few corners, these fast corners, are horrendous in these vehicles. I don't know what it was like in the Rollses. I presume it was fairly similar. It would just understeer the whole way, and then if you pushed it a little bit too much, all of the oversteer. It was terrifying. They're a bit better through these really slow corners because you just have to be really slow, basically. But yeah, these are very, very understeery and quite a pain to drive. As we come on to the back straight on this opening lap, you can see the speeds of the Bentleys. They absolutely flew along. A few Rolls Royces were quick. It depends on quite how they were built. But in general, the Bentleys were the fastest down this long back straight. A little bit of lag going on, and that would play a pretty big part. Getting stopped for the hairpin on the opening lap was interesting. Quite a few cars ran a bit wide. These cars weigh about £4,000 plus, I think, for pretty much all of them. Yeah, jumping on the brakes there for the first time. A few people slightly misjudged it. I, having started from the back, was working my way through the order, actually doing quite well on this track. I was quite pleased with my Bentley. Unfortunately, the hand of lag would intervene, and, well, I don't really know. I have no idea what happened. Just the car got fired, and then we all got magnetised to a wall. 4 cars killed in that crash, like properly. well, 3 of us were properly killed. I think the green Bentley got away without quite as much damage. Yeah, it's not good. And lag would be a real pain with this race. Not the worst we've had it, but quite a few cars would end up broken and have to take a trip to the pits. And it just spread the field out. There wasn't a huge amount of close racing. These two, I think this is for 10th place. I'm not sure, judging by the state of the cars. I'm thinking they may have a bit of damage on them. One of them was looking a little bit wobbly through the corners, perhaps broken suspension. A lot of cars were broken because of lag in this race, which is a shame, because this can be quite a good track for racing. There's plenty of overtaking opportunities around here. The black and yellow Rolls Royce there, losing this one just by getting a little bit too much oversteer. It's very easy to make mistakes in these cars, whether it be understeer or oversteer or outbraking yourself. It doesn't take much to have an accident or to fail to overtake, etc. Mr. Aero HD had decided to join us again. He was driving the yellow Bentley that got a big slide halfway through a corner, probably from running over a curve. Replay camera doesn't quite show it, so he's now under threat from a black and white Bentley, or dark blue, not quite sure, Bentley. As they come around onto the back straight, Aero can hold on to the position by being on the inside of the hairpin. Then we see the straight line speed of these Bentleys as they close up to the back of the Rolls Royce. It's going to be 3 wide as we fire down the back straight, although they're going to be long past the Rolls by the time it gets to the corner. Aero finds himself on the outside of the hairpin. Then we've got the brakes of the Rolls Royce that can just brake so much later. Fortunately for Aero, at least, the other 2 cars had the tiniest of tags coming through one of the faster corners, and that was all it took for them to sort of be slowed down. And Aero would get 3rd place back at the front, and it would be a Rolls Royce again that would take the victory. By judging by the state of the front of it, it wasn't a completely clean run, but once he got to the front, he would pull away from the rest of the field. Surviving all the lag crashes was kind of fundamental to this race, but a good victory nonetheless for the Rolls Royce. Most exciting battle would happen on the final lap over 3rd position. Despite the slight spin out for the black and white car, he would catch up to the back of Aero on the final lap. You can just see the Bentley in 2nd in front of them down this very long straight. We saw that these two were pretty evenly matched in straight line speed. It was the black and white car though, that was, or black and blue, the blue and white car, that one was slightly quicker. Aero goes very defensive into the hairpin, which you need to do, just outbrakes himself, runs a little bit wide, although in doing so he does kind of block off the blue and white car. Not intentional, can't really do much about that once you've committed. Aero gets a big slide on the exit of the final corner, but the blue and white car can't quite make the most of it and has to settle for 4th place. Our 3rd and final race would go to Bathurst. You know, nothing like taking some huge tanks of cars around a very tight and twisty track. The first corner was expected to be chaos. It wasn't too bad. There was a black and orange car across the gravel. In all honesty, it went a lot smoother than I had perhaps expected. More smoother than I thought it would do. Unfortunately, there would be some lag again down this back straight as the cars just couldn't quite make up their mind where they wanted to be now. Yeah, that's less than ideal. It caused a few cars. Forza 5 does a weird thing with lag. It sort of makes your game run in slow motion and then very suddenly catches you up, which means if you're in a braking zone, that can be a real problem. So there was quite a few crashes on that corner caused by the lag. I was one of the cars that I got torpedoed by somebody whose game was lagging. Yeah, it's a shame. Lag really messed up this final race. The Rolls Royce we are following at the moment made the best of the starts, passing Aero and moving up into what I think was 4th place. The lag really did kill this race completely. There was so many cars were broken, damaged. The field got very, very spread out very quickly. There was just a lack of any real excitement going on. Not a huge amount of overtaking. It was mostly just cars going to the pits to get repaired, and that's how people made up places or changed positions. This was in the first few laps. This was about the only action going on between a couple of Rollses. The silver car tries to defend, the white car goes for the cutback. It's not a done deal yet as they go side by side down the start-finish straight, but trying to go around the outside at the first corner is very unlikely. The only way you're really going to get a pass here is to cut back to the inside. The silver car tries it, he just doesn't have the grip. The white Rolls Royce was pretty damn quick around this track, and then down the next straight, he's just got enough of a margin to sort of keep out of range. As I said, my car was pretty heavily damaged on the opening lap. However, it was still drivable, so I elected not to go to the pit lane. Amazingly, despite the fact I had destroyed rear aero, a destroyed spring, destroyed brakes, my car was still, in fact, actually, I think the balance had improved. It wasn't a better car to drive, but it wasn't quite as oversteery and understeery as it had been before. With damn it, normally when you have a killed suspension, you got to pit because your car's ruined. But my Bentley was actually working quite nicely on this one. Really surprised me. I was in, I think it was 7th at this moment in time. And as we come through the chase, the Bentley in front was a little bit wide, had a wheel on the dirt, and again, the exit of this corner, just trying to push it a little bit too much, had a wheel on the dirt. Once you kind of get your car stuck on the dirt like that, it can be a real pain getting it off. Fortunately for me, the Rolls-Royce in front had a big lock-up into the final corner, and I soon found myself up into 5th, but that was about as far as I could go. As I said, the field was hugely spread out at this moment in time, which was a little bit of a shame. It was a shame that the lag pretty much destroyed this final race, because, you know, the first two hadn't actually been that bad. I would like to have seen what a proper race would have been around here with quite inappropriate cars at the front, and the action only really got going on the final lap. This Bentley had led for the entire race, I think. And as we come down the hill for the final time, you can see how much the Rolls-Royce behind was pushing through this section. It was very quick through the corners. A little bit too quick on that one. A little bit of scrape on the wall, as you can tell by the bodywork condition of the Rolls. It had scraped past a few of the walls as we come on to the final straight. It is a pretty damn quick straight that down here. The cars will get into some decent speed, I think about 160, 170 miles an hour for most of the cars as you take the chase, which is quite daunting in a car that is this heavy. It is flat out. Most of the cars, at least, would have been flat out through this corner. The Rolls was not quite catching, although the Rolls-Royce was probably the quickest of the ones I saw at a straight line. The Bentleys were pretty good. Under braking, though, that's where the Rolls-Royce makes up so much time, can brake so much later than the Bentley, although he's only going to get one more shot for an overtake into the final corner, and it's a pretty tough place to overtake in this final corner. The Bentley goes defensive, the Rolls-Royce tries to do the cutback. It worked earlier, but on this one he just gets a little slide halfway through the corners. That slide, I think, probably cost him the race win. They were very, very close across the line. That yeah, that slide, I think, probably cost the Rolls the victory. Very close finish between the pair of them. Meanwhile, in the damaged car section, Aero was finding his own unique way of defending. I think this is over 9th place. It turns out if you slide a Bentley, a very large Bentley, through a very narrow section, it's rather hard to get past, as the as the black and orange car was finding out. Yeah, it's pretty tough to actually overtake down this section normally with cars of this size. When the one in front is going sideways, you can't really do very much as they come on to the back straight. I thought the orange car here would simply out-drag Aero's. I'm not sure about the damage on Forza. It's showing Aero's car is smoking quite heavily, but the orange car that isn't smoking isn't sort of blasting past it. So, yeah, I'm not sure quite on the damage front with this, but there we go. Anyway, that is it for this week's FailRace versus the community. I'm hoping that next week the lag will be a little bit better. We are going to be going back to Forza 4, and we shall be running B-Class front-wheel drive cars. Normally when I do these, everybody swaps the vehicles to be rear-wheel drive. Occasionally you get the odd four-wheel drive car. Very rare that we see front-wheel drive vehicles. So we're going to do some B-Class front-wheel drive. I'm going to say that, as I normally do, please, people who are expected to come towards the top of these, people who've won, come on the podium in these races regularly, do not use the leaderboard cars. I think Civics, 97 and 90 something else Civic, there are a couple of Civics that I believe go on the leaderboards. Might not, I think it's B-Class. Please don't use them. Be creative, be interesting, use something a bit different. It's always good fun to see the mixture of cars that we get. We do pretty well, actually, on variety, apart from in a race like this where it's specific to set vehicles. That race shall be taking place on Thursday, the 28th of August. It shall be starting at 7 PM British summertime. If you wish to sign up, then you can on our forums. There will be a link in the description, and find the FailRace versus the community section, and that is where you sign up to take part. However, that is it for today, so thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.